We're back here on Celeste, and I have to say, this is a different game than what I've done before in the past. So, this is a Tier 4 matchup between Jess and Jake. You already know who I'm playing as. I'm playing as Jess, except this time I'm playing her a bit differently. In the past, I have always commented about how Jess is the one CO that can keep going forever because of her powers. And there's one unit, well, I guess two, but mainly one unit that can make that possible. And it's the one unit I have never explored a whole lot when it comes to Jess, and that is her artillery. Now, her tanks, they're great. And they get all the same passive buffs that Max would get, just minus 10 more just off by 10%. That's it. That's the only difference between Jess and Max when it comes to tanks and other direct units that are on the ground. But Jess also has that same thing when it comes to her and Grit. Grit gets 20% firepower, Jess gets 10% on her ground artillery and her rockets. So, and when she gets a comm tower, her tanks get the same buffs as Max would get normally, and her artillery and rockets would get the same buffs that Grit would get normally. It's just, she's missing the firepower that Max would get with his powers, and she's just missing the range that Grit would get when he uses his powers in his day-to-day. So, and that's the one thing I've never explored with Jess is just how good her indirects are. But in this match, there's one CO in Tier 4 that can outdo her in any indirect combat, and that is Jake. Jake is the newest CO in Orange Star. I almost said Days of Ruin for whatever reason. I don't think Orange Star exists in Days of Ruin. But in Dual Strike, he's an all-rounder. But when his units are on planes, they get a 10% bonus. And his powers, they work like Jess, but he also makes it his own. So, start with his indirects. Like, any troops that are on planes, like, they'll get a massive bonus to firepower, and all his indirects get +1 range. That's ridiculous. Like he can go up against Jake, and suddenly his artillery is hitting 4 tiles away instead of the normal 3. Jake is kind of good with indirects, and he can do it better than Jess if he is on planes. If he's on roads, cities, or forests, or HQs, or for whatever reason, if Flak got around to it, mountains, then he's not going to get that firepower bonus. It is only on planes, and with this being the planes-based map, yeah, Jake is going to be hitting hard. And this is the part where Jake takes a little bit from Jess and Max. All his ground units, all his vehicles, like anytime I say ground units, I mean vehicles. Like tanks, artillery, that stuff. I do not mean infantry or mechs. They're their own beast. But all his ground units will get that +1 and +2 movement. So he acts like his own way, but he has similarities with Jess and Max. And it's kind of interesting on that. But here we go. Typical day 1 shenanigans. How long can I say typical day 1 shenanigans for? I genuinely don't know. But this is the one time where I tell myself, okay, explore Jess's artillery. Please, for the love of me, explore the artillery. And artillery is what actually won me this match. Spoiler alert. So, it's day 5 now. And now it's time to bust out some artillery. Right? Yes, there we go. artillery on the weak side. So, on the weak side, this is actually a favorable position for artillery. Because typically, when it comes to weak side, that's going to be your more defensive side. And yeah, you can get aggressive if the situation allows you for it, but that's typically, this is going to be your defenses area. Like, this area right here, this is all yours. And then, it should be all yours, at the very least. Maybe your opponent can squander, like, take this city away from you while you take this city, but, meh. And the perfect way to counter artillery is to get a tank. Artillery, they have to be set up first. The indirects, until you get to Days of Ruin, when it comes to battleships, indirects cannot fire and move at the same turn. They can only do one or the other. So you have to get your indirects early on. Otherwise, they're not going to be able to do anything. Unless you support another one of them and you slowly inch them up. The typical grit shenanigans. And when you do that, you're going to entice some more aggressive plays from your opponent. Thankfully though, I've already got my airport and this city over here. And I'm going to get a battlecopter. I have yet to get a single tank as Jess. I've gotten a battlecopter before a tank. Already something is weird going on. And this is the downside when it comes to, like, playing defensively as Jess. You leave a lot of room open. But, from time to time, you can count on your opponent to make a few mistakes. And look at that. 8 damage off of that. That is, and this is without the calm tower. So, I believe, ignore that. That is not at all for a match that I'm currently doing. Ignore that. Yeah, so that wasn't even a luck roll. I mean, I guess it could be a luck roll, but it was highly favorable to me. 77, 78, 79. Like, it was 3 out of 10, I think, because he had 77, 78, 79. That's 3. 6. Yeah, so there was a 3 in 10 chance that it would deal 7 damage instead of the 8. According to that calculation. And it's highly favorable towards the 8. So yeah, but now this tank is at the point to where Jess's infantry can pick it off. And she has minus 10% on those. Just like with her battlecopter. But I think it's time that I get my comm tower, since this Jake already has his. And when it comes to capping cities and you have artillery, you could do a little bit of sneaky plays. If my opponent wants a city, he's going to get blasted by artillery. And I position my artillery just such a way that if Citra here wants to take a shot at my artillery, the other one will be able to fire right at it. There is no safe spot in order to where this tank can get around to it. Never mind. he can fire a little bit on the south, but that's not going to be a very good idea considering that it's going to be surrounded on all sides. Because this infantry can get to it, and this infantry can get to it. And that will be a dead tank, no matter what. Even if it's at 2 HP. And finally, I get 1 tank over here on my strong side. And also, I'm going to go ahead and get some anti-air. because I know a battlecopter's going to be coming. Jake battlecopters are actually really good, like for this type of map. And force my opponent to do some early repairs, draining his funds, which is also very, very nice. And typically you don't want to bring any of your you typically don't want to bring any of your troops on your weak side into the middle. You typically want your strong side to do that, but I'm kind of being a little bit forced to do that. I'm 18, and I don't have a city being captured. My opponent has not 1, not 2, but 3 cities being captured, and you might as well consider this a 4th one, because I don't even remember if I went ahead and stopped that. So yeah, I'm a little desperate for funds. And this is the thing about, like, tanks and artillery. You have to position them so carefully that I do take that out. Like, so incredibly carefully. And I pull out 2 more artillery. So this typically isn't how you would play chess. It's just spam artillery out. Like, typically, if the scenario calls for, like, if you're going to have tanks and artillery, it's not going to be 4 artillery and 2 tanks coming out of the Jess. It's going to be 4 tanks and 2 artillery. It's going to be the complete opposite. But I really, really wanted artillery. I wanted to see the artillery fire for once. I want to explore Jess's artillery, and can you blame me for that? And he pulls out 2 more tanks. So, right now, I have 2 tanks and 1 battlecopter. Citra here has 7 tanks and an anti-air. I also have an anti-air. So I have 4 direct combat units, while he has 8. And I have 14 infantry, he's got 16 infantry, he's got the unit count on me. So, what do? I wall up. And I make an interesting choice with a wall here. So, but it's positioned in just so a way, his tanks can't do anything. This tank can't go over here. And this tank, even if Citra somehow got his power, he won't be able to take advantage of it. So, this wall's safe. Like, he can pick off this infantry. He can. But for the most part, this will survive. This is considered a wall for this turn in this scenario only. And with his anti-air in the middle over here, trying to chase this one over, I'm going to go ahead and build a second battlecopter. Because I don't like the amount of tanks here, so I'm going to try to force some anti-air out here. Yeah, and so now he's starting to capture a lot of stuff in my area. And this is the drawback from relying on, like, indirects so much. And look at that, it worked. But you can see that he's dancing outside the range, but he's not taking any action against it. And this just allows me to create stronger and stronger walls. It allows me to fortify my position. And when Jess is allowed to fortify her position, That's not good. And finally, I start evening out the tank count just a slight bit. He's still ahead of me by 3. Don't get me wrong. So, but it's at the point where I can comfortably leave these infantry over here because I have tanks in the area. I can deal with them. This is meant to be my strong side, and yet look over here on my weak side. And prime artillery over here. Light fire. Does he cover that city up? No, he doesn't. But he draws his tanks away. It was at this point where I realized this guy does not want to go and range my artillery no matter what. And I was so upset by this. I had 2 tanks ready to destroy this anti-air. And what was the calculation on that? Like my infantry on mountain with a comm tower, 49 to 57%. I had such good odds on that, but like doing 5 damage. But I deal 4 instead. Because if this was 5, like if there was a 5 health, I'm pretty sure this 8 HP infantry would have been able to do something. Okay, maybe just barely. But it was 57%. There was a good chance that this would have allowed it to be picked off. Like a very good chance. If I rolled high both times. But I didn't. So I have to bring in the battlecopter, which is not very good. But I can use my battlecopter to start harassing some citrus troops in the west, while my tanks deal with this one freaking anti-air that I wanted to get out no matter what. And I fortified my position again because I see 3 tanks. I don't want my artillery to be taken out by 3 tanks. I am, however, with this position, giving up my battlecopter for that, which that was something I was willing to do at that point. You should never be willing to give up battlecopter, but here I am. And I see Citra attacking up. I want to attack up as well. And Citra, he is at a point to where he can afford a Neo tank and 2 infantry every single turn if he wished. That's not good. And Citra is the first one to bust out and beat down before I can get turbocharge. And beat down, as I explained before, Jake now has +1 movement on. Wait, what? I guess he doesn't. Oh, okay, I guess. So I guess beatdown doesn't give any movement base powers. It's just walk rock. Interesting. Here I was under the assumption that Jake got that +1 movement. Well, regardless, he still gets my battlecopter. But he drew a tank away from the middle in order to go into a strong side, which is interesting. And yes, I do see that he's going after my my airport. I don't really care though, because I'm realizing at this point, artillery is what's going to win me this battle. Not battlecopters. I'm going backwards. Not battlecopters. Because yeah, he did take 1 engagement, but that was it. Like, just on this one turn. All he did was just take down a battlecopter. And that was something he was able to do without his power. And I guess one tank. But he was able to do that without his power too. Like, this was a waste. Okay, 2 tanks. But this was a waste of a power, in my opinion. Unless he did it for the 10% defense, but no, I would have rather kept that, honestly. But I'm going to reply in kind with a turbocharge. I'm going to go ahead and start capping this airport. And I'm going to reinforce it with the artillery. So this has suddenly turned into an airport race. And a lot of games on this map actually do end up being that, is an airport race. So while he has tanks to cover his side, I have artillery already ready to fire on anything that dares go after that one infantry. And I'm going to go ahead and take out his anti-air. Because he built anti-air on his weak side, but there's going to be no battlecopters over here. This battlecopter is forced to be over here to deal with the, like, all of these tanks are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 tanks and a medium tank on the way. This battlecopter needs to stay over there. And I don't get any shots with the artillery, sadly. I don't. But this will allow me to fortify my position. And like I said, battlecopter's forced to stay over there. It needs to start picking off those tanks one by one. And here's the lovely thing about turbocharge. Jess doesn't care where she takes her engagements. No matter what, she's going to get that 10% increase with her firepower, regardless of where she's at. Jake, he needs to be on planes in order to get that 10%. And even though I said I didn't really care about the airport, I knew my opponent was not going to go near everything, because my opponent's terrified of artillery. And I get why. Artillery hurts when they actually get to fire. Like, one fire on artillery from onto a tank, they immediately earn themselves in. But come on, dude. You have so much infantry in the area. You can pick off at least one of those artillery. Yes, the backlash will hurt, but you will end up killing off the artillery because there's an area to where they can't fire upon. And I'm immediately going to send this Neo tank over here. I'm just going to say that right now. And he just lost his artillery. Not artillery, but he already lost his infantry that went up there. And the joy about this one, I don't have to use artillery for this one. I can still reposition it if I want to. This infantry right here can go up and deal with it, or even this one. But now he's starting to go very deep down into the south. And look at this. His medium tank isn't even going to go in. And he built a Neo tank. I built Neo tank, he built a Neo tank. That's fair. I got 23 coming in, and he's got 25 coming in. And he is not only taking this city, one of my cities, and also the airport. My airport, to be specific. I'm only taking his airport, and he already interrupted that. I don't want him to get a single bit more money. So I'm going to go ahead and take off that infantry. I'm going to start capping this city to the point where he has no choice but to go in with it. And because he dared Fred upon my area, this medium tank is going to go and punish it. Like I said, don't sleep on infantry engagements. And yeah, much on that. But it was at the point where, like, even if he does decide to give up this capture and go after the artillery, I'd rather a 4 HP unit infantry than an 8 HP unit. Because at the very least, he won't get the bonus with it being a mountain. But at the very least, the artillery can survive a little bit. It won't get picked. It won't lose any health. At least I don't think it will. No, it won't. It won't. But 8 HP? Yeah, it will. And goodbye, tank. And I'm going to build the second Neo tank. Why not? I certainly got the funds for it. You want to pick off that infantry, and slowly but surely, and this battlecopter is just harassing tanks. It is softening them up for my indirects. And that's all what these tanks have over here on my weak side have been. They've just been bodyguards. They have not left this area at all. And Neo Tank, that is the only thing like there that can come down and deal with this one infantry. Look what this forced him to do. And look at this. Medium Tank comes in and deals with the one infantry over there. His main intention is down here on my weak side, which, yes, good. It should be this should be your main attack force. But don't, oh my goodness. Don't sleep on your weak side at all, because otherwise it's going to get artillery locked, potentially. Because Citra is forced to use the Neo Tank in order to interrupt this capture, and while he could have used the anti-air to interrupt this capture, this anti-air had to go into the middle so he could deal with this one battlecopter that has just been picking off tanks left and right. And this infantry is going to go all the way down to the bottom of the corner. And this is the one thing I don't get. Can he even do damage back? So, why beat down in this scenario? And not do a single thing against it either. Citra has not been using his powers effectively. And suddenly, everyone is gone from my weak side. He has abandoned these 4 units. And considering that, and just look at this. I don't care, I'm going to take it. Why not? Look at that. And I know I don't have to worry about any battlecopters or bombers any longer, so this anti-air is just going to be a glorified, bodyguard at this point. I don't need it. And meanwhile, since every single thing over here decided to just go away, this Neo Tank is just going to interrupt that. And I'm immediately going to build an anti-air, because from the weak side base to your airport, specifically yours, an anti-air on the base will immediately be able to reach this. Even, no matter what CO you're playing, it is always going to be 6 spaces away. Okay, 7, I guess, if you want to be that specific, but 6 spaces away to where you can firebomb anything that they dare build on here. And I'm just going to start taking cities over here. Yes, Citra has 28k compared to my 22. But now I am in a position to where I can go and start taking cities for myself. build another artillery. Like, I have long since realized that artillery is what's going to, like, let me win this game, and he just gave me the city. Because he knew if he interrupts it, like this airport, because he knew that if he, like, goes for it again, he's going to lose that Neo-Tank. And he built the second one. Well, why not? Well, I'll show you why not. I'm going to use turbocharge. Medium tanks against Neo tanks. If the Neo tanks get the first shot, they obliterate the medium tanks. And you know, they might take 1 damage back, but if the medium tanks can get the first shot, it's a different story. Immediately dead. And I have this airport. This artillery no longer needs to be here. And since Jess gets +1 movement on all of her ground units, this artillery can come in and base lock. Like this base. And it's going to get followed up. And yeah. So right here would be a blind spot. That artillery won't be able to fire here, neither one of them. This anti-air being here prevents that. And like, my goodness. I just keep fortifying my position. And I get even more artillery. Like, look at this. I have a wall of artillery over here. I have 3 artillery down here, and I got 2 up here. Both of them base locking this one. He starts going for my comm tower, which goes, whoa, dude. Calm down there, buddy. And he is like going to be able to get it, actually. But I have 31 units compared to his 20. I am evening out the income. And while he may have 2 Neo tanks, 1 medium tank, and 1 crippled medium tank, I also have 2 Neo tanks and a medium tank. Except, well, now he has 3 Neo tanks, but this one is going to fire on that one, and then this one's just going to fire on that one. It's 3 HP, sure, but it can still deal a lot of damage. And this medium tank, it just took out 2 Neo tanks without taking a scratch pad. What do you want me to say on that? Like a 6 HP Neo tank and a 5 HP Neo tank, that's essentially a Neo tank right there. This medium tank has earned itself in. Both of these artillery has earned itself in. These 3 have earned itself in because they have been holding on to this wall this entire freaking time. And it's not the concept of artillery doing something to make sure that they earn themselves in, even just the mere presence of them. Guess we just look at this. All 3 artillery ready to strike. And yeah, even though I should have something down here, I got my opponent's airport. And there's nothing stopping me. Nothing at all from producing bombers. And yeah, like I said, Neo tanks, yeah, they'll take some damage back, but that's it. Citra gets block rock. He is space blocking himself to get to that medium tank. And then he resigns. This game, my goodness, I have never used indirects like this, because I have always commented about how Jess's ground game is so good, because all of her ground units, in the game match against that done with Hawk, against Hawk, on ground level, both of them are even. It's just the powers are different, and Jess's powers, they make her ground force incredibly difficult to deal with. But when you are Jess, and you have a ground force that has 130%, 140%, and this is without a comm tower. 140%, both tanks and indirects. That is incredible. You are essentially playing as both Max and Grit at the same time. Sure, Max, he got the 10% more on Jess, and he's not locked to ground units. He has naval and air units. Granted, the only naval units he's ever going to use for his powers is cruisers and submarines. But battlecopters, bombers, yes, that is why. So that's what he has on Jess. And then Grit, he's got that +1 on, +1 range on his indirects, and when he uses his powers, he gets even more range. That's what makes those two incredibly scary to go up against. But the fact that Jess can get both Max and Grit firepower on her indirects and on all of her ground troops, that's incredible. She has Grit and Max powers, just without just toned down, but that's still incredible. Look at what this artillery would have done, to this Neo tank right here. So, and this is with 10% defense as well, because Citra has activated it. This is without turbocharge. A really good chance at 4 damage. We have turbocharge. It's a coin flip between 4 and 5. Overdrive. It's going to earn itself in potentially 2 times over what it's actually cost. And without defense, instantly, 4 damage. There's 4 health left on that Neo tank. And then this 3 HP, artillery, it can go and back it up as well. 2 more damage. This bomber can just go in and clean up this one, which it's completely fine. Because I don't have comm tower anymore. Yeah, this is without comm tower as well. This is insane. Just how powerful Jess can be. Jake, he can get to those levels, but he is restricted on planes. Jess doesn't care where she's at. She could be in roads and beaches, and she will still have that firepower.